I'm Rowan Hand. He's Feargal McCormack. We're both a coterie of magnificence. Small coterie. There we are.
Self-praise is dangerous, Rowan. Watch yourselves now, Rowan.
Oh gosh, we need to be careful with that. But we're on the up because we're constantly predicting a very jolly outcome to the economic crises that we find ourselves negotiating from time to time. And we're more disposable income, it's telling us this morning. That survey done for ASDA is saying that we're marginally up, we have more to spend.
Yeah, I think perhaps correct. I think it's so small, we've got to be realistic. We have to accept that if we're going to have sustainable economic prosperity going forward, that most of us, if not all of us, even though it's a hard message, may have to live on less disposable income than we did in the past because perhaps we were living above ourselves. Having said that, let me continue because I think it's important to put it in context.
Okay.
There are very encouraging signs which ultimately will create an exciting economic future for us all. The fact that yesterday the UK economy confirmed that growth in the year to 31 December was 1.9% GDP, which is the estimate of the measure of output for the economy, and you put that in context, Rowan, that was forecast 9 months ago to be 0.6%. So that's a phenomenal increase. And then you have unemployment falling. I suppose the only warning point may be, and we'll give it today, but hopefully it doesn't happen for a year, but I think it'll be difficult maybe to hold it to mid. Certainly it'll be difficult to keep it going for more than 15 months. More likely 6 months will be interest rates. The problem will be if the economy picks up too much speed, the Bank of England will have to step in perhaps with rising interest rates. And that will have a major impact on all our mortgages, etc. And so therefore I think we need to be careful to have confidence that things are moving forward, confidence we can meet the challenges as they arise in terms of income. However, don't spend it all because there could be
and don't keep it under your bed.
There could be increases in interest. So never keep it under your bed. Put it in a financial institution.
What would that Canadian man over in the Bank of England have to say about it all? What is he? He is Canadian, isn't he?
Yeah, he's some Irish rich as well, Carney.
Well, yeah, he'd be all right. He's
I
got
suspect
his head screwed on.
I think we'll have him over here, I'm sure, in the next 6 months to a year.
I think you might, McCormack. I think you will.
We've had the previous 2 governors of the Bank of England in Newry, so...
It sounds good. And he, being part Irish, would hold that in high esteem, there's no doubt. But you're always bringing me this grand news of the big thing, the big story, how Britain's doing, how the economy's blah, blah, blah. What about the wee man in the street who needs to go in and buy? I'm now down to getting 3 days out of a single spaghetti bolognese.
Well, that's very exciting, Rowan. but the bottom line is, the truth is that we're living in a global economy. And actually what's happening in the economy ultimately transcends down to you and me. And I'm glad if you're calling me a wee man, I've made progress. But what I would be suggesting to you is that unfortunately none of us live in an isolated glass bowl. We actually are all part of a global economy. And because of that, for example, if there's an oil crisis in the Gulf, we'll know about it within 2 weeks, 1 week maybe.
Yeah.
So don't fool yourself, Rowan. What happens? These trends have a major impact on you and me.
Yeah, I'm not so bad because I don't have a mortgage anymore. I drive a little £500 car. And I live on 3 days of spaghetti bolognese. Well, I alternated with my famous 1-egg omelette. I don't spend an awful lot, so maybe I've stopped the world and got off.
You're an interesting person to observe and to share your experiences. I mean, I noticed perhaps because of the rain or the snow, you're now wearing shoes and socks, whereas at various times of the year you were exposing your toes to the world. But again, we who observe believe that it's important that there is individual traits and that people have an opportunity to express their individualism in many forms.
Did you ever hear the like of it? And part of his individualism is Warren Point and is the football and the hurling and the sort of the whole life of the St. Peter's down there. We were there yesterday, by the way. We were in the Warren Point Library yesterday.
Yes, I heard you had a very exciting day yesterday in Warren Point.
Is there nothing that misses you in Warren Point?
Well, I wouldn't say there's a lot that misses.
We birds come back to tell you.
We hear stories. Glad to hear you were in Warren Point, and Warren Point needs every opportunity it can get to tell its story.
Of course. They were. How is the football? Not the football. The GAC going, St. Peter's.
Well, to be honest, thankfully, it's going well, but don't misinterpret that. Much progress continues to be made, but we're not where we want to be nor where we need to be. I mean, in terms of the club, it's very strong at present. I mean, on Sunday, we had our induction day for underage football. On Friday last, we had the St. Allen's Primary School and the club run a healthy GA, healthy living GA day. Tremendous success. We had coaches, for example, Benny Coulter, we had Mark Poland, we had the John Venny, we had the PSNI were in talking about the importance of internet security. We had dietary people in. To be fair, Ron, the club is like any GA club. It gives one a sense of place and a sense of belonging. And then really the key to it is the volunteerism. Can you get the right level of volunteerism, the right level of passion that can create the spur to make a difference in one's local community? And we're very fortunate in Warrenpoint in that, I think we've talked upon before, the club currently is the only GA club in Ulster to have Club Mike Platinum, which basically looks at all your outputs and your achievements and rates you. So we're fortunate in that, but we're always trying to improve, and continuous improvement. For example, we're now about to field our first, we fielded a handball team last year in the Féile, and we're hoping now to develop that this year. Similarly at the, sorry for interrupting you there, but similarly at the in St. Allen's School, we introduced the 6th game of the GA Rounders this year. And actually on Friday we presented the prizes for the individual rounder teams. So, all these things, then you complement that with your health and well-being, your community, your culture. Saturday evening, I was at the Ulster Scorn and Oak final in Silver Bridge. I must say, tremendous evening.
Did I see you once jigging in the Whistledown on behalf of St. Peter's?
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad you see my feet moving a wee bit faster than they normally do. But I mean, equally, it's fair to say that our young Scorn and Oak musician team got to the Ulster final and did very well. But I must congratulate all the clubs, and particularly Silver Bridge under Charles Burns' leadership, and Peter Murphy, etc. Packed hall.
Yes, good stuff. And how do you get the time? Because I think there's a lesson in this for other folk, because you're one of the busiest human beings that I know, and yet when you cross the threshold to Warrenpoint, your arms open and you embrace the whole busyness of the GAC there. You must lead a very structured life, do you?
Well, I'm not sure about that. I think what I do is I'm fortunate to have a very supportive wife and family, but as a family unit, we enjoy participating in community life. I think personally, I've always felt it is in giving we receive. But I think the key to any voluntary or community organisation is to put in place team structures. Team working together, everybody achieves more is the key. And believe it or not, we're currently on a policy initiative to recruit and develop more volunteers, because that is the key. If one keeps doing it themselves, then you don't have a club, you don't have an organisation.
Was it 5 years ago that you came to real strength within the club? Because maybe my timeline is wrong here, but for a long while very little was happening at St. Peter's. Then one day Feargal McCormack became chairman or whatever, and then things started to happen. Were you importing or exporting from you to them an expertise that was greatly needed?
No, to be fair, the Warrenpoint Club has always been a solid club. I think the Gamebreaker was that back in 2010 we decided to do a 5-year strategic development plan.
Sounds like
and we identified 26 people. We asked 26 people over Christmas would they join the group. It was going to start its work on the 6th of January and complete before the 31st of March.
Wow.
26 people asked, 26 people said yes.
My goodness.
And to be fair, that framework plan is what's being implemented at present, and it's due towards the end of this year, early next year, it'll have to be renewed again. But look, Ro, it's 2 steps forward, 1 back. But first, great. I mean, if you think about it, this is what life's all about. Life's all about people.
Absolutely. But 2 steps forward and 1 step back. gives you one step forward all the time, doesn't
Correct, and that's the key. And don't get me wrong, we'll make plenty of mistakes, but for the person who never made a mistake, never got there.
It's true.
But I can tell you one thing: hopefully, we're creating the culture that there's no fun in being a hurler in the ditch.
No, not
you know,
at all.
it's
Not
very
at all.
easy slobbering on the sidelines and complaining. Get involved, and whether that be in Caleeby or whether that be in Alicall or whether that be in the St Vincent de Paul or the Salvation Army or whatever. The message we need to get out here is get involved, because actually volunteering, there is nothing better. There is nothing better in terms of achievement. Believe it or not, you yourself feel far more happiness quite often than the people you're helping. You see this on a Saturday, and unfortunately this is the hidden gem that a lot of people don't pick up. But equally, there is a challenge to ensure that in any organisation, particularly a volunteer organisation, that one doesn't hog it. So I believe you come, you do a job, you move on, you take on another role. But the most important thing is you embrace new people. You bring people in, you bring families in. And you know, money is important, and some might say if you don't have it, you can't live. But in my experience, Rowan, happiness and money aren't connected. Happiness is from within. It's actually from having a sense of place, a sense of community. And I personally find the GA Club, there are other clubs that achieve the same, by the way, but I find in Warren Point that the GA Club allows me that mechanism to meet people, to get a break from work, which is very important to me. But equally to have a fresh break. But I stress, there are equally other good not-for-profit organisations in every community. And I think that the key to all of us is to develop that whole concept of community service and volunteerism.
Because it's almost like an endorphin, a chemical in the brain when you do reach out to others. It's often not to do with altruism and wanting. It's just simply about doing the right thing, and there's a great fulfilment from it.
Well, look, there is fulfilment from it. I think it was St. Francis who said, "It is in giving we receive." However, we have to be realistic to also accept that there are sometimes it doesn't go right, and sometimes we make mistakes, or sometimes people perceive we did things wrong. And I think so long as you in your own heart, it comes back to that famous thing we talked about before in business, it's the mirror. So long as you at night time can say, I gave it my very best today, then you'll sleep well. And sometimes your very best may not have been good, but that's irrelevant. As long as you give it your very best, that's all you can do.
I saw Donna McKeown's posting this morning in the social media. The line is something like, my ambition for today is to be a better person than I was yesterday, which embraces that kind of concept.
Well, it's 100% right. And I mean, the other one, I suppose, is live every day as if it's your last, because death doesn't respect age.
Indeed it doesn't. And that's particularly the case coming to the end of the month, and those of us with self-assessment need to be sending little forms away.
We do. Friday's the deadline for self-assessment tax. And to be fair, you know, really there's about 15% of people haven't yet returned there across the entire UK. It's a dangerous game now not to return your self-assessment. If you get a £100 fine.
Wow.
And then, believe it or not, Rowan, after 3 months, £10 a day.
£10 a day?
Up to 6 months, which brings you up to £900. And then thereafter, 5% of the tax, or £300. But remember, those fines apply whether you have no tax to pay or not. So you may have no tax to pay,
but you need to return.
But if you don't return, you pay the fines.
Yeah, because they need to get a finger on you. How do they know you're telling the truth if you're doing self-assessment? Do they check you out, or what do they do? Well,
basically, there is an onus on you to give a fair representation of your income. And they have various mechanisms of cross-checking the information you put in. For example, if you put in, you give money to a charity, they can maybe trace the charity was the money received. If you put in to say that you were not employed for a while, and all of a sudden they get a return from a company at the end of March that says, "Oh, Fergie was an employee," they then send you, could you clarify, was there a misunderstanding? And experience tells you that that it's better to get it right first time and subsequently pay interest and penalties.
Of course, very much so. And people have time. There's 24 hours in a day, and maybe a few days to go.
And there's good advisors out there they can go and talk to help them.
Absolutely. How are things down at the mill, talking about advisors? Your own
things
business?
Are going pretty well, I must say.
We've expanded the staff,
Yeah, we have, and there's a good team spirit there, and we're very fortunate. We have a great young team who are passionate and they're hungry. And the challenge for us always is to ensure that every day we're raring to push that boat out a bit further, and we never lose the hunger. The hunger and the drive is the key, and I must say that's what motivates me. Whenever you go into work and you see people raring to go, and that's the key. Yes, we have our tough days, we have our tough moments, but we must address those challenges, embrace the opportunities, and get on with it. Thank you very much.
Go out, take care. Music, sir.